everybody, and welcome to the Radiant Black podcast. This is a podcast focused on Radiant Black and all things Massiveverse by Kyle Higgins, Marcelo Costa, Becca Carrey, and Michael Basuto. Today, we're joined by an amazing guest who, honestly, this has been a long time coming again since Supermassive interview. We've got co-creator and writer of Self-Made, co-creator and writer of Inferno Girl Red, and of course, you've heard of him working on the Ultraman comics over at Marvel. The Mighty Morphin over at Boom. Of course, it's Mat Groom. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me back. It's great to be back and chatting with you guys again, especially for such an auspicious week.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's fantastic having you here, man. I mean, I gotta say, we were. I was like, we were just been so busy, so we were kind of late in terms of messaging about IGR, but. Oh my God, I can't wait to get into it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's always kind of been like in the periphery, like Inferno Girl Red, like lingering, like Galactus or something out there. And I was worried.
Yeah.
In a good way, though, because like I was worried we might have overhyped it. But Bash said it was great when you first read it. You gave us the copies yesterday, the early release, and I read it, and it met expectations. Like, it's amazing. Like, I thought everyone was working on on all cylinders. And to me, it was a masterpiece. Like, I can't fanboy enough. Bash, you probably got a question.
Thank you so
much. Dude,
I
when I saw Yo You Yes like post that hardcover on the Discord, man. Which was, we won't talk about it too much, but I was like I like facepalm. I was happy and like facepalming at the same time because I've literally been checking all day long for anything Inferno Girl Red, anything. Like I was just looking because I missed that Kickstarter and I've been.
Yeah, we were all suckers, unfortunately.
Oh my God,
definitely regret that.
So that was just, man. I just gotta say I've read it digitally, obviously, because that's how we got the copies, and I can't wait. I can't wait to pick up the physical copy and reread it this Wednesday. Because I told the guys this right away, and I don't think it's hyperbole. Of course, I'm speaking for myself. I said right away. I know Mat Groom is a good writer. I read Self-Made, so I know like what to expect in terms of the writing, and it was fantastic. But my God, I thought genuinely it was the best art in the Massiveverse. Like the best.
It's incredible. It was part of what has made this wait so hard is knowing that we've been sitting on gold for years, and that like totally taking myself out of the equation. I purely just mean like day after day I'd get emails from Erica with new pages and it'd take my breath away, and then Igor would come in and totally transform it again, and I'd be sitting there going like, this is the best art in superhero comics. I think, like, obviously it's a very subjective thing. Everyone has their preferences, but I was blown away, and we just had to wait and be like, it's gonna be good, guys. I promise it's gonna be good. It's coming. It's gonna be good. But yeah, I am so proud of both of them and how they work together, and even how they work with Becca. I mean, obviously Becca Carrey's a Massiveverse all-star, but we asked her to sort of like push her style a little bit and sort of like bring a different perspective to it to match the style of the art, and she did that as well. I just think page after page of this thing is absolutely stunning visually, and I'm so glad it's finally out there for people to see.
Yeah, and it was exciting for us to see too, and I loved, like, I wasn't expecting, I guess I should have because it was the OGN, but to get all those pages and just to get like that much development right at the start and just kind of learn that much about the character right off the bat. So that was just so awesome getting into that world and seeing that. So I just want to ask you, like, when did you originally know you were doing an OGN, or why was that the decision of at the end?
That was very much from the start our intention, because we wanted to make a book that felt like a novel, because we wanted to make something that was really accessible. I think part of my frustration in a lot of ways is that there's so much great stuff in superhero comics, but there are a lot of barriers to entry if you are totally fresh to the medium. I think if you've gone out and seen superhero movies or like shows on TV and you love it, it's a lot to navigate. And there are like structural things in terms of figuring out how issues work and how they're collected. But there's even just and I think probably the biggest thing, it's a very different structure, because if you're doing a good job of writing single issues, then they are a whole story in and of themselves. And when you collect that, it has a very specific feel to it, where it is these 6 stories that combine into one greater thing, but it doesn't feel like a novel, which isn't a bad thing. Like, I love writing stories that way. Like, when Eduardo and I were working on Stuff Made, part of the joy of it was making sure every issue felt unique. But I wanted to make a novel that felt like a novel in a recognizable way, so people would just understand it straight away and be able to, you know, get into it. And part of the benefit too is that you can spend that time. Like, if you're doing single issues, you know, especially if you've only got like 20 pages, you have to get to something big and get to that hook and get to a cliffhanger quickly. Whereas in a novel, you can spend the time, you can go 40 pages and establish the world and get people really invested and then ramp it up. And like, it's not to say one or other path is better, but we felt like that was the way we wanted to tell that story. But it's difficult to do. And that's why we had to go to Kickstarter. And in some ways, kind of, not that it's completely unique, but kind of try a new model for this, where we do the OGN, we fund it that way, we release these oversized single issues, which are like more than double size in some instances, and then we take a big break until the next novel is ready, which may be a terrible idea, I don't know, but it does get us to this result, which I'm happy with the result either way, no matter how it goes.
Yeah, I think I can speak for us all and say we are too. Like, it was fantastic, man. Really.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I've noticed that there's 2 different universes that we're dealing with here. Besides, obviously, the biggest one being no Waffle House in Cassius World, as we learned in Supermassive. That's a big deal. What are the major changes? What makes Cassius World so much different than ours that we know?
Cassius World is a little into the future, not necessarily like strictly chronologically, but there's technology that exists there that is a little beyond our own. And there are pockets of this universe where they've made some more progress on things that I think perhaps we would like to make more progress towards, in terms of living sustainably, building better cities, taking care of each other a little better. And we wanted to create in Apex a place where, despite all of the challenges of the world, at Apex, they were making strides. Like, they were starting to build something that felt right, that gave people hope. And that hope was a risk to any entity that might see pinnacles of hope as a challenge or a problem. And rather than just saying like, oh, it's in America today, but there's this really great city over there, which didn't feel authentic, we felt it would be easier for it to exist somewhere else. And then part of it too was because the laws of this universe are a little different. There's an element to it that I don't want to sort of speak too directly to, that exists kind of in the fabric of the universe, that we didn't want to say, like, Radiant Black and Rogue Sun and Dead Lucky all have to operate by those rules. And we didn't want to have them to react to the fact that a whole city gets ripped out of existence. So we found it a little easier to sort of like set it just over here in another universe. But there is also another element to it that will come into play later, which is that the idea of different universes is going to be part of Inferno Girl Red as a whole. So even if the Massiveverse was in consideration, it would still be important that there was a multiversal element to it.
Awesome. Do you have a name for your universe?
No. I'm going to call it the Inferno Girl Red universe for the moment.
I like it.
I worry about overwhelming people with terminology.
True. Once you throw in like
universe.
There you go. Good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
No, since we're on the topic, one of our listeners and members of the community, Owen, we love him. He submitted an awesome question that I feel is the appropriate time to ask now. So he said, he said, I remember initially, I remember these fond days, when the book was advertised in Radiant Black 1 as Dragon Girl Red, and that Rico Renzi was the original artist, colorist, sorry, before Igor Monti came in. And his question is, why did those changes occur?
You know, I can't say for reasons that I can't say. Well, I mean, with Rico, I think it was purely just we're in the early stages of putting the book together and figuring things out. And yeah, tried some stuff with Rico, and it was great. Like Rico's work was really stunning, but it also just wasn't quite the right fit for that. It wasn't quite the right fit with Erica. And so we were still just like looking at different options there. But like Rico, to Rico's credit, was like an absolute gentleman about it and was fantastic to work with, and I would absolutely work with him again. But just, you know, when you're in those early stages, you're trying to find the right fit. The name change was a few different things, some of which I can't get into, but I think we're happy with where we ended up, I guess, is all I can say to that.
Yeah. No, really rolls off the tongue. No, new name, definitely like it a lot. And
Awesome.
actually going back a little bit to kind of like how you wanted to separate your universe a little bit from the massive Earth. I had a question, like just going through this book, seeing all this new crazy, just kind of new crazy technology. Like we had some phones, like seeing the street signs, like crazy windmills, all the infrastructure and all just crazy. The clothing, everything was just so unique to this world. And it was just, it was amazing to look at with the colors, especially. But I was just wondering, is that a writer's job to do that? Or is that kind of like Erica kind of making that up? Like how much is that you versus like the artist kind of making that stuff?
I definitely lay most of the credit of it being like actualized at Erica's feet. But especially on a book like this, I mean, there's a reason that we've been putting Erica's name before mine in the credits. Like she's the co-creator. Like we're making this together, and it was just a lot of conversations back and forth about what we're trying to create and why. And with Apex, like we wanted to make Apex City feel like a place that you really wanted to go, and it had a lot of hope and optimism. Both because it's cool, like it just looks cool, and that's its own goal. But also because we wanted Cássia to be someone who has had no real luck in her life. Things have never really gone her way. She's always been on the back foot. And then finally she gets this chance, and it's like larger than life, and it's incredible, and it's all she's ever wanted. And then it's taken away. It looks like everything's going to crumble. And the higher you go, the more it hurts when it's taken. But in terms of creating the specifics of that, it's just Erica and I talking about what we're trying to achieve, and then us putting like literally Pinterest boards together of references of like less this, more this, less that, more that, and honing in on this feel. And then and we'll talk a little bit about how the city works, and how like, because it's like it's literally shunted off into the darkness away from the universe. How is it sustaining itself? How does a city like that manage a population like that without any sort of like external influences? And yeah, then Erica just starts designing, and it all comes to life. And even like the people and the fashion, like Erica's got such an amazing eye for this stuff, and is really intent on everyone feeling unique, and what they're saying, what they're wearing and how they look, saying something about them. And I think that's why I'm just like so over the moon to be working with Erica on this, because she can do action in a way that's so powerful and immediate and compelling, but it can just be two people sitting together and talking, and it's gripping because of how much emphasis she puts into like the facial acting and their clothes and their setting. Yeah, she's such a gun. So all credit to her for how well that's all come together.
Yeah, no, truly.
I felt like Harriet was like my friend when, like, in those times when Cássia needed her. You know, I felt like that's how it was so well conveyed and well done. Yeah. Matt, you have a question? Go ahead.
I don't really have a question, but I was gonna say like Cassia's mom Anna she's already taking Mr. Barnett's like trophy as like best parent in the Massiveverse for me. Like the wisdom. Like I find when you write a good parent, you can tell it's usually by people that have had a great parent that have instilled that wisdom in them, or they have a great circle of friends. Like I just love the way you portray Cassia and the way you tackle journalism, where this was a journalist who we've seen journalists in comics before, but the way that she's just telling her story and everyone thinks she's crazy just for trying to report the news and how difficult it can be to really report what you see and what you hear. I just really love that. And no, I just wanted to emphasize that. I don't have a question right now.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I think, having a parent-child relationship or a parent-teen relationship in a book like this and having a different spin on it was important to me, because I think we've done the like they're a good parent, but I have to keep my secret identity from them for X reasons, or like they're a terrible parent and I need to sort of get out from underneath them. I wanted to try in some ways like model a good like mother-daughter relationship and have Anna be meaningfully part of the story. But I also I agree. I think Anna's a great person, and her sense of optimism and her like talent is huge, and she brings a lot to Cassie's life, but also she's not perfect. And I think in some ways Anna's intense belief and Cassia's intense skepticism, they're both not in the right place in the spectrum. And I think it gets them both into trouble in different ways, and it has consequences for them. And I think that's something that we'll probably get into a little bit more moving forward, that like as much as they have a great relationship, and I'm so proud that that's come through, neither of them are perfect people. And they're both going to have to deal with the consequences of who the other person is and what that means for them.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. I know for me personally, like the first thing I noticed about the character design, and one thing that's very prominent on the character, for me personally, having like I have vitiligo myself, is the mark on Cassia's face, on the eye. So that was just really cool to see, because I think like there's barely any characters like you see like comic characters that actually have it, or even like people who don't have it, sometimes not prominent, like it's very just random, like it's just comes where it comes, right? So I wanted to like, I was wondering like, do you know someone who had it, or what was kind of the inspiration behind that, or whose choice was that? Was that Erica, or what kind of went?
Yeah, I mean, when Erica was designing characters, I think almost kind of famously, and you can see the evidence of this in the hardcover, the costume design for IGR was tough to crack. It took us a while, which is not at all like Erica making some mistakes at all. Like she was, all the designs were great. We just had trouble dialing in exactly what we wanted. With Cassia, Erica sent through 3 different designs of 3 very different looking people. And I looked at one and I was like, oh shit, that's Cassia. That's so weird. Like I didn't really even have a specific mental picture, but I was like, there she is. How is she real on the page? And Erica said, oh, I'm so glad, because that's the one I felt. And I just put 2 others in there because I thought I should provide options. But yeah, Erica just drew that particular design of Cassia that way. And I think as much as it wasn't intentional on my end from the start, it felt right to me in the same way, like making Cassia a girl and making her a person of color. I didn't want to write a story about, a straight white guy who's always on the back foot and is not, privileged, etc., because that didn't feel very authentic. In the same way, it's just another small element of like, Cassia's had to deal with some stuff in her life, and it never comes up in the book. She never says like, I'm angry at having to deal with this, but it's just another small thing in the undercurrent of like, she's had to overcome prejudice big and small in her life. She's had to overcome hard circumstances, and in some ways that's like steeled who she is, and she gets some strength from that, but she also has this like, a bit of crust of cynicism that can get in her own way from that as well. So to me, it was just like another little detail that further cemented who Cassia was and helped sort of like crystallize my understanding.
Oh, that's awesome. No, I loved, like, I was impressed with, like, even how, like, consistent Erica drew it. Like, even, like, when, like, Cassie is, like, small, like, you still, like, see the prominent parts of it. Like, I was just, no, just blown away again with the art, and even, like, no, just the relationships, like Matt was saying, like, just the way you really, like, brought together these characters and relationships. Like, it made me just fall in love with her from page one. And yeah, hopefully in the future, and I guess Supermassive too, can see some more of that. Hopefully,
who knows what will happen?
Who knows?
I do want to say, like, I do appreciate how you, like, her vitiligo. It's not, I'm sure a lot of people with these conditions don't want it to be acknowledged. Like, oh, you've got blank. It's like, it's just, you're part of society, right? It's just, you know, and it adds to her character without having to be her entire being, which I really appreciate that. You did nail the dynamics of, like, teenagers talking, and I know that gets difficult. Even when I first heard the term lit a few years ago, I was like, what's going on? How are they talking now? And so you really managed to nail it. Though I did think they were a lot more kind-hearted than the 20-year-olds I've been around. But yeah, I think you nailed the way that
Dylan.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, we'll leave that to Ryan. But Matt, how do you do it? How do you narrow it down and manage to get this authentic teenage dialogue?
I mean, I think in some ways you can go furthest off the track by trying to write teenagers. You know what I mean? Like, they're people, and in all of the important ways, they're just gonna talk like people doing people things. I think it has helped up until like weeks ago. Really, I had a day job where I was working in a creative agency, and we had like junior creatives there who were just like fresh out of university, or even like interns of the interns at university, and then moving into the organization. And they were like way too cool. And I don't mean that in the like stylish, and although they were, but cool in the like just so down to earth and accepting and grounded in a way that I know I wasn't at that age. And I know like nobody I knew, maybe I was just hanging out with the wrong crowd or something, but just like deeply authentic people. And I think knowing them helped a bit. And the other element is that Erica will deny it, but she has incredible taste and incredible fashion sense, and is incredibly, I feel like, connected to what's happening culturally in the world of the youths. So we can have Harriet, who part of her deal is that like every scene she's in an entirely new outfit that looks incredible in a totally different way, and each look is just like iconic in its own way. And I would not write something like that into the script, because I know that if I had to suggest outfits, we'd be in a lot of trouble. But when Eric and I were talking about Harriet, like right back at the start of the conception, she's like, yeah, well, like she's a very open, flexible, explorative person, and that's gonna come through in the fashion. I was like, great. If you think you can handle that, I have all faith. And she did.
That's awesome. I one thing I wanted to ask about is, how did you meet Erica and Igor?
I mean, something that a lot of people don't know and can surprise people, which I understand, is that Radiant Black and Inferno Girl Red started their lives not together in the sense that Kyle and I were working on them together, but about the same time. They were sort of like being co-developed, but one of the great challenges I had was finding an artist. I was like committed to finding a female artist, or at least not a male artist, because I knew that I on my own wasn't going to be able to sort of like tell that story authentically. I wanted to partner with a female artist, and finding the right person was so difficult. I have some pages from other artists who tried those 5 preview pages that were from the Kickstarter, and they were all like great in different ways, but none of them were quite right. And we actually was working with one in particular, and I thought we were going to go ahead, and then they dropped out. And then from that point on, trying to find someone else was like 9 months or something. it was just not working out for us. And it was just, I was going through every Twitter artist hashtag you could imagine. I was like searching for like databases of portfolios, literally weeks and weeks on end, searching for art, asking everyone we knew. Kyle obviously goes to a lot of conventions, was like scouting convention floors, asking people at conventions if they knew anybody. And then it was just that process of asking, hey, do you know anyone? I think, I feel so bad. I've got to double check this. I think it was Daniele, but one of the Italian artists that we work with was like, oh, what about Erica? And I found her work and straight away I was like, yes, absolutely. And then she started drawing pages, and her pages were even better than the samples and stuff that I had seen. And yeah, we just fell in love. I'm not even exactly sure. I assume Michael or Kyle had, I think, because we were broadly familiar with his work from that Mega Man Boom series that he did, which it was just one of those things. You see the colors on that and you're like, like it's arresting. Like, whoa, no one's doing that. No one's doing that at all. And which is what we wanted. Every aspect of this book was like, push the medium, like push it forward. What could superheroes be in the future? And of course, that's what we're all trying to do in the Massiveverse. So I think when whoever of us in the group saw that, it was like bookmark in the head of like Massiveverse. That's the sort of person we want. And then this was the opportunity. And he did some tests and like blew it out of the water. And he's so dedicated. I can't even tell you how many times we'll get a page and we'll be like, oh, great, this finished page looks absolutely amazing. And he's like, I'm not happy with it. And then 3 days later, we'll come back with a whole other version that we're just like, in like use of lighting and color. Yeah, it's nuts. That guy is a machine. And I think the Inferno Girl Red in particular is going to be a real showcase for him of like, look at what this guy can do.
He's a madman for sure. Like he's one thing
I have a question about is in terms of Erica and Igor. So considering I heard like Michael say one time jokingly that it's a miracle that any comic book gets made every month, in the process and everything. And I'm sure there's like a lot of truth to that. I've heard just so many different things from people in the industry, people outside the industry. It's interesting. But my question to you is, were there any like time barriers or because you guys are, in Australia and then everyone else is I'm assuming Erica and Igor are in Italy. Were there any time or language barriers in terms of working at first?
Not hugely. I'm pretty used to working outside of my time zone because like, you and I, we're talking right now at quite different times. And Italy, interestingly, it changes throughout the year a little bit, but it's about 12 hours. So how it often works is we'll have a call either when I'm going to bed or when they're just about to go to bed and they're starting the day or vice versa. And we'll just kind of like swap in and out. So that works quite well. And then as for language barrier, this is like so much credit to Erica and Igor. Like their English is great. It's like, it's not perfect, but every now and then Erica will apologize and I'll say like, your English is pretty good. My Italian is non-existent. So you're doing all of the work here. Don't apologize. So yeah, it's really just because of Erica and Igor's incredible bilingualism that this works at all, and we're deeply appreciative for that because I'm not smart enough to learn Italian, I think.
Me either. My grandparents are Italian, and all I know is Cioccolati Antonio, which was my nickname as a kid. It's just Chatterbox, and nothing's really changed. But yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, I wish it was a joke. But yeah, anyways, another question that we have is a lot of the Massiveverse books deal with specific themes. Rogue Sun has supernatural elements as well as being a teenager and dealing with that, and Rogue Sun dealing with being in your 30s and stuff like that. What themes and like what's that niche? What's that area you really want to hit with Inferno Girl Red?
There's one word that I would use that I might not, because it's broadly, you could say, a spoiler, and it's kind of a keyword towards the end of book one. But I think in terms of like larger themes, we really wanted to make a book about being a teenager right now. And I think that sounds straightforward because in some ways the superhero medium is built on the back of successful teenager superhero stories, right? Like Spider-Man was when everyone kind of went, oh yeah, all right, this is going to be huge forever. But it is very hard to do good teenage superheroes, and there hasn't necessarily been a lot of them recently. And specifically, we wanted to tell a story about being a teenager now and how it feels like the world is crumbling and there's darkness coming in from all sides. But also, we older people have this terrible habit of being, oh, don't worry, the young people are great. The young people are going to save us. They're so clever. They'll figure it out, which is a horrendous thing to put on a generation, to like screw them over and put them in the worst possible spot and then be like, we believe in you, you know? So it's a book about that. Like, how do you have belief when there's no good reasons to have belief, knowing that having belief is the only thing that's going to get you onto that one tiny moonshot path of potential success. But then also, and this is something we'll explore a little bit more as we go on, how do you do that without having the like opposite danger of being lost to self-delusion and believing so much that you disconnect from reality?
Yeah.
And because like I feel like that's the path forward, right? Like we need to have a level of optimism and belief that in some way defies logic, because like things don't look great and a lot of things aren't going our way. So like you've got to kind of believe against reason, but not to the point where you delude yourself and disconnect from reality. And that's like a perilous tightrope to walk, but you kind of don't have any other choice, especially younger generations. So yeah, that plus, you know, tokusatsu, boy school drama, superheroes, Inferno Girl Red.
You did a great job with those themes. I got that across in the first issues that we read, and like I thought you nailed it, as well as even like in the class, the teaching stuff, the placebo effect stuff. Like
yeah,
I didn't sign up to go to Helix Campus, but I was sure learning. Like that was really good shit.
I was hooked. I was hooked in that class.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, no, I was into
awesome.
that stuff.
I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's a fun chance to you know, you never want to like lecture people, but you can learn stuff in a book. And like those studies are real. There's some stuff that we just like we don't really understand, and I'm sure I've misinterpreted some stuff because I'm not, you know, I'm not qualified. But yeah, there are interesting science-based reasons to believe that belief is important, you know, and that's not like, obviously we are bringing that through the fantastic lens, and this is fictional, but yeah, it was an important part of the book, and I wanted to make sure it was grounded in some ways so that it felt like something that could be meaningful and not just like escapism.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And actually, are we allowed to talk about like a little spoilers from the first book a little bit here, or I guess,
that would depend on the.
That would depend.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay,
what
like the first like 20 pages or something. Like,
I think that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, I think it was from the preview too. Like just seeing like the first preview of the floating city. We see Apex, the floating city, and I guess like I should have had that in my head that something like I don't know how it would have got there, but seeing those previews were incredible. But when this moment happened in the book where it's just freaking rips out of the earth and splits away, I was just like, what the heck? Like I was mind blown. Like it was absolutely insane. And I was just wondering, like, was that kind of like a starting concept like you came up with from the start, or like when did that come into play, and when did you initially think of that kind of idea?
Yeah, it was very, very early in the conception of it when I was first figuring out what this book is at all. Because in some ways that's the like most direct literalization of the idea of like you've got a pocket of hope, but there's darkness pressing in from all sides and there's no way you can go. Like you are surrounded and it's pressing in. So that was a huge part of it very much from the start. And we had some early talks you know, like with Michael and Kyle and the other sort of Massiveverse people, when we're all just sort of like spitballing, being like, "That's a big thing to do early. Like, should that be saved for later? Are you sure you want to like play that card right now?" But it was important to me that we got right to that, because it is the heart of the book, and I think it sets the emotional and physical stakes really immediately. Yeah, so it was always part of it. My only like real fear was when writing it, how to show that. And at a certain point, I just had to be like, "I'm sorry, Erica, but it's a whole city and it's being ripped out of existence and thrown into darkness. And you're going to have to show a whole city on planet Earth. And then you're going to have to show it being like, you know, blasted away, the remnants. So we really understand. And then it floating, it was so much work. And there was just no way around it. And I just had to hope that Erica was up to it, and she killed it. I will never, ever underestimate or not appreciate the tremendous amount of work. I think that might be the biggest thing I've ever asked of an artist, and likely will be for a long time, of like a challenge for them to tackle, both in how to frame it and also just like line work, you know, like physical labor in bringing that to life.
Yeah. Erica should be a household name after this book, 100%. Like,
I sure hope so. I sure hope so.
Prettiest book I've read in a long, maybe it is one of the best looking books I've ever read. Like, straight 100%. Like, I can't really think of what matches with it. Like, everyone's working on all cylinders. Like, I'm not even embellishing anything, and that's my favorite book to talk about, is one that I don't have to embellish. So I thought
I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's not easy for me to say it's the best art in the Massiveverse, because we've gotten so much good art. Like, we've gotten so many artists.
I mean, it's like the best is defined by incredible art.
But it's the best art in the Massiveverse. Sorry, Kyle. Sorry. Sorry, myself. It is, yeah. It's really, you know, it's fantastic. I'm actually like giddy, because I can't wait to read the physical books, but I'm also like super excited for everybody to read it and start talking about it, because I know a lot of people were like loved Cassie just from the impressions they got during Supermassive, and I think that helped a lot with a lot of what you were talking about earlier in terms of like thrusting them into that. I think just having some sort of familiarity with Cassie already, like we already know what she's like, but here we really delved into her personality, her background, and it was a lot deeper. But yeah, no, it's just incredible. And it's I think there's gonna be like a lot of Cassia fans like after this, a lot.
Yeah,
man. Like
jeez.
It's gonna be, and all the characters, honestly, like Harriet's such a great character as well,
right?
And I don't want to get too much into it, but Griffin is
man, I gotta tell you, I do love writing the Griffin, probably in a way that's like, it doesn't reflect the best on me, how easily that stuff comes out. It's just like,
that's fair.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm excited for people to get to the Griffin too. That'll be, I think, probably like February for people reading in singles. I'll have to wait a little bit, but I do like when the Griffin enters the story, he comes in like a freight train. He's not a guy who like we like slowly build up. It's just like, bam, here he is.
Damn.
Yeah. And then, like, I guess this comes back to what we're talking a little bit before about format. I was so excited by the opportunity afforded to us for fight scenes by doing it this way, because in what'll be issue 3 for people reading singles, or it's just like the end of the book for people reading the whole book, we got to do a fight scene between Inferno Girl Red and the Griffin. And I think it's like a spoiler to say that it's a big fight at the end. That's often how these things work. But it's like 18 pages long, depending on how you count. And in other, like in typical single issue comics, that'd be like an issue, and you'd have to do other stuff. So I don't even know you could really do that. But we were able to just like really go for it. And giving that kind of runway to Erica and Igor is always going to have good results. Like, they will use that to give you something just that fucking wrongs.
Yeah,
pages, man, on the book, and I'm not gonna say where or anywhere. There's so many of them. I was making a joke like early on. I don't think this is a spoiler because I'm gonna be very vague, but like very early on in the book, like the first 3 pages, right as the opening scene with the characters in the monorail, there's a creature that comes crashing in, and I made a joke with everyone right before you joined. I was like, "This is 50 Shades of Blue," and Igor's just showing off because like look at the range, right? Like it's what.
Yeah. Every page he's showing off. Yeah.
Every page, like genuinely. Yeah, so I'm just mind blown by how incredible this big. I want to also say, this kind of spoiler too. I guess the way you guys handle legacy in this book, I guess I'll be is incredible. Like truly, you guys went all out. You didn't you didn't hold out on how you did that, and I love that. There's like a there's this thing that's about that early on in the story. So if you're gonna read book 1 like next week, you'll see this, and my God, like wow.
Yeah, thank you. That's something that's important to me, and I take a lot of joy in when you're creating a universe. You don't want to create something that feels like it came into existence the page before page 1. And Kyle and I had a lot of fun on that with the Ultraman series as well, where if you're creating a universe, that means you're creating a history, and you get to like figure out what all of these events in history were. And some of them may come directly into play and you'll see them. Other things will probably just inform how a character's acting and what they're doing. But if you understand that history, then you feel that even if like you don't recognize it consciously as a reader, you understand that these are people with like weight and history and are making decisions for reasons you don't quite know because they've had other stuff going on in their lives. So figuring out the history of this universe and of these characters and how they all relate was definitely part of the joy of it for me. And yeah, we get to play with it into pretty fun and specific ways, which again will only unfurl more as we move forward.
Oh, that's awesome.
I have a quick question. Who designed the logo? As in the triangle with the dragon inside?
I don't know if I can say that. I know that's a weird answer. Yeah, I may have to come back to you on that one because I think I can say we were working with several artists on Inferno Girl Red. But prior, and one of them came up with this design for the logo, and I loved it, and it was so representative. And I spoke to them and received permission and worked out a deal with them to use that, and they were super happy and supportive. So like, we're all good. I just don't know what their feelings are about that. And that's like literally the only thing. Like Erica didn't see anything else from that artist because we wanted to make sure that Erica was entirely fresh and that inspiration was like, her own and genuine and stuff like that. But that was one element that we had that we sort of built around. And it's just like, it's so iconic, I think. And I'm a really big believer in having powerful symbolism because it links into my belief in the importance of design in the books. And that's why I'm so happy to be at Image, and I'm so happy working in Massiveverse. And although Michael didn't do the key design on this series, it's been Michael's lead that has set the tone of how important design is on all of our series. And I think it's one of the things that's just like massively undervalued in the comic space. Not universally. There are some people out there doing incredible design work, and there are some editors who really value it, and some parts of companies that care about it. But to me, it's like, if you're making a book, you should be making it as good as possible in every way. And design is one of those ways, and it's a big way. And yeah, it's very important to me to get that stuff right. And that was certainly part of that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That logo, yeah, like you said, just kind of like just so recognizable right away. I know, like right when I put down the book, I went right away, and luckily we already have access to those beautiful shirts online. If anyone's listening to this, you can already get some Inferno Girl Red shirts. There's 3
Absolutely.
really, or I think 4 nice ones up there. But yeah, I just got the one with the logo and the Inferno Girl on the back. But yeah, no, those things are freaking sweet. So yeah, already getting some cool add-ons to the series.
Where can people find those?
Awesome. I think that's Black Market Narrative, I believe.
Yeah, the Black Market Narrative Threadless store, which I think might just be, let me check. Black Market Narrative, just blackmarket.threadless.com. Yeah. And yeah, we're always going to be looking at sort of like building that out. So, you know, we can't promise anything, obviously, but people have suggestions of like what they want to see on shirts. So,
I have a suggestion. Not a shirt, please. the bracelet, so I can. We need.
That's such a
we need that.
Distinct.
There's so many like moves. I was like studying them, like I don't want to say them because they're gonna be amazing for the people to experience. But I was like, man, they're really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously I have a big love for tokusatsu, and Erica also, but I think Erica and Igor in particular anime, would just like there's so much to learn from there, and you never want to take it whole cloth. You never want to just like rip stuff out without context. But I think there's just so much to be learned from that space, and I think there's a lot of stuff. Like there's definitely some Kamen Rider DNA throughout this book, and even some like. I don't want to spoil anything, but what ways we treat the form that is directly inspired by Toku. And yeah, that was very important to me, both in terms of all that stuff, but also just like learning like narrative lessons from Japanese storytelling like that, and being comfortable with endings and making superheroes that aren't just about defending the status quo. They have specific journeys and specific things they need to deal with. So yeah, in that way, there's definitely a lot of that through there. But yeah, absolutely, bracelet 100%. There's a few things that we're like, we just got to find the right partner. But that's the benefit of being an image, right? Like if we find the right partner and we can make it feasible, we can make it happen. There's nothing stopping us.
Need one of those helmets one day. Yeah, there's so many
they were there for the Kickstarter, were they not? The helmets for like the
those helmets, right? Yeah.
There's like a few people I know Parker got one of them, so
that's sick.
Yeah.
That's freaking neat. So when I read an awesome book like this, there is a question that comes to mind. Will there be a book 2?
I'm very comfortable saying I want there to be a book 2. In fact, I think I said it on another podcast recently, so I can say it here. If I were to take my webcam and point it that way, you would see a big board full of scene cards of the outline of book 2. So I'm working on it. That isn't an announcement to say it's happening. There's a lot of different things that need to happen to make that feasible. But it is our intention. We don't even know at this stage exactly how we're going to proceed forward because, as I said, we tried something weird with the format. Will that work out for us? We don't know. Will we have to try a different approach? We don't know. But we love this world. We love this story. Everyone who reads it seems to be really into it. And I think our only challenge now is getting people to read it. So, yeah, I wanna do more. I have big ideas. I have big plans. I know Erica's keen to do what we have planned next. I think Igor's the same. So he's hoping.
Would you kickstart it again, or would you want to publish it for regular run?
I don't know. Kickstarter was difficult for us. I mean, like hugely appreciative. The only reason the book exists is because of the Kickstarter. So many people came out and supported us, and it was hugely helpful. But because of the delays we faced on the book, there were a few things like currency conversion and inflation when moved over a year scale has a big impact on things. And it hit us pretty hard in a few ways. And then because we were delayed, we had to move the shipping to the printing to America so that we wouldn't be super far behind the image releases, which cost us more money. All of which is to say we'd have to sit down and look at a bunch of different stuff and figure out what's feasible financially. But I would like to. I really liked that feeling of having the community come together,
grassroots
support us, and that grassroots support, and then being able to give people the thing early because of that. It feels good. It's just whether we can make it work is an open question at this stage.
Yeah, fair enough.
What I'd love to do, I don't know if this is feasible or even if this is what the people who backed the last Kickstarter would want, but I think there's a version of it where we do book 2, but also do a reprint of the book 1 hardcover, so people who missed the first one could jump in as well.
Yeah, that'd be incredible.
Yeah, that might make people who backed the first one feel like it's less special because it's available again. We'd have to do a survey, but yeah, we're considering a bunch of different things.
The hardcover was nice. All that info was really nice. Getting the insight on how the character like evolved with all of your commentary on the side, like the Igor thing. Just the thing that Igor said about how Inferno Girl Red is like all the letters of his name minus the O, IGR.
Yeah, that was cool. That was
it's
cool.
Like fate. It's meant to be. I mean, you're talking about belief. I believe you guys were meant to make a comic together. Like, whoa.
100%.
Just seeing the Eureka moment, because you guys, the back matter is incredible, and you can literally see the Eureka moment when you guys nailed the design. It's incredible too. Like it really is, like it hits so much better when you see it. You're like, wow, that's really went through a lot.
I have such appreciation for that stuff, and I love it myself. Not to I'm about to invoke the Beatles, and I don't want to say that Inferno Girl Red is the Beatles, because that's a big claim. But to me, it is like watching that Beatles documentary on Disney Plus, where it's just them jamming together and they're just rolling cameras in the background. And you see Paul just sitting there, just strumming at his guitar, not really sure what he's doing. He's finding something. And it's just there's something a little familiar in what you're hearing, and it goes and then it comes and it goes and he gets a little closer. And at a certain point, you're like, shit, he's writing Get Back right now just by screwing around a little bit, and he's just he's searching and he's grabbing it from the ether and he's pulling it out, and then within a few minutes it's basically there. And seeing that process happen is very cool. And it's also I appreciate seeing it because it makes me as a creative realize that everyone has to work for it, and there are times when it just comes like Cassie's design, which is amazing, but I think it's more helpful in some ways to see people just go over and over and over again and iterate, trying to find it, just to reassure people this is sometimes just how it is, and that doesn't mean the end product is any better or worse. It's just how it is sometimes. And yeah, I love that stuff myself. In fact, just big hardcovers are my preferred way to read comics generally. So I was pretty stoked we got to get to that nice and early.
Yeah,
that's
pretty delightful. That picture of Erica that she sketched of herself thinking that's I love that stuff. Yeah.
that is the cutest thing, and I don't know why. That was I got an email one day with designs. It's just JPEG attached these designs, and then in there is little cartoon of Erica herself considering. It's can they all have this? Is that an option? I know you're busy and we're on a tight schedule, but this would be additive to my personal experience.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, you really felt how earnest everyone is on the book. The creators working on it. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a big thing that links us up, is that we are all just pretty earnest, borderline corny, at least in my case, people. It's a very sincere book, but in some ways it's kind of that's what it's about, so I think we're just the right people for that job.
But you made it as familiar as Lockport. I feel that's such a huge accomplishment for me, at least. I feel Apex, man, that first moment when you look at it, I'll explain to you how it felt, is when you're playing a Pokemon game and you see the city for the first time and it's shining, you know what I mean? And it's oh my God. Or when you see Metropolis City for the first time, when you see Metropolis, that's how I felt when I saw Apex, with that first image when the car driving, and I was oh my God. And then you get to the back of the book and there's they even show you the campus and the details, and man, I love that. It's so you guys did such a good job.
Who came up with that game in the back? I love that too.
That was me.
That was you.
That was that. Yeah, I find that deeply funny because it's. I think it's as well to say that there's a scene in the book that takes place at a sports field, and it's a big action scene. The sport being played there, thoroughly unimportant, does not affect the scene at all. But I just was in that particular moment in time, got into my head well, it's another universe. It is another city. Why make it just baseball? Let's just let's make a sport. Great idea, Matt. So I was all right, let's do it. And then as I started putting it together, I'm well, got to make sure this really works. So Like I came up with all of these rules, and then I figured, well, it's hard to explain, so people want to see it. So I'm like, okay, I'll put together a 3D model. I don't 3D model things. So I downloaded like 3 or 4 different programs for 3D modeling, realized I was ill-equipped and could not use any of them, threw them all out. Eventually found it's like CAD for beginners or CAD for babies or something, like children's CAD that you can get online. And I got that. And after like a day of fumbling around with that, I managed to put together what I was looking for. But it was so much work and is so unimportant to this thing. But it's the sort of thing that I'm like, I thought it was cool. I think it's fun. I'm sure some of the people will as well. So let's put it in the back matter.
I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool. So I'm on your side there.
Awesome. I'm glad. I'm glad somebody got some value out of it because it was days of my life wasted otherwise.
No, I was actually reading through the rules. Like I was actually interested in this. No, that was awesome for sure.
That's the above and beyond you're talking about, though. You're going to make this game, and you're doing 3D modeling. You're not a 3D modeler. You know what I mean? Like you're going on your way to do these things that Charlie's going to look at, and like people appreciate that, really love it. The Kickstarter fans, they're still I'm sure they know the rules. It's that kind of stuff. That love and that passion doesn't go away. That Tolkien-esque kind of like love for your craft, where you're doing the leaf by niggle, like making sure everything is perfect, every brush stroke to get this fleshed out world. That's how we get this entertainment that becomes as much a part of our life as anything. It's really impressive. 100%. And it's that kind of
I appreciate that. And I think too, one of the things I'm very conscious of is when you're committed to something big like this, you don't know I have an idea of where we're going, but you don't know where the specific turns are going to take you. And you want to try and build out everything at least a few layers beyond what you actually need, because there may be a time when you take an unexpected turn and you don't want there to just be like shallowness. You want everything to be robust and to be able to support a world and support a story. Or, if we do side stories or like whatever may come, the more robust it is, the better. So in some ways, that is why I do find it good to really figure out much more than you need figured out, because you don't know when that's going to change later.
Exactly. So for sure, so we have this arc for Cássia, and she's confirmed to be in Supermassive 2, right? Right?
No, she's not.
Is that the thing? She's not.
She's not.
Really?
She's not yet.
You tried to sneak a confirmation out of it.
I put it out earlier. I thought so too, but no, we'll wait and see.
You're not gonna get it out that easy.
No. I look. Nothing is confirmed for Supermassive. And I can promise you,
is Supermassive confirmed? I get
it. Look, I can tell you it's called Supermassive.
Okay.
Watch this be this is like a 4th dimensional mind fuck where there's gonna be like a new character called Nothing in Supermassive. That's the kind of shit you guys have been doing to us, man. I remember asking Kyle, I was like, who is that cutout? And he's like, oh, that's no one. And I just turned to these guys like that he's probably for real, right? Like he's probably like that he means that's no one, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not. Yeah, we said last time if we do another one, it's going to be different, and it may feature some characters that returning. It may feature some new ones. Like some might not come back. It's going to be a different form, and that is true. So you'll get a little bit more idea of what's going on when the solicits come out in a little bit, but
cross-dimensional Sinister Six confirmed. It's like Lord Viathan, Griffin. They're gonna bring them all together. No, I'm just kidding.
You there's some curveballs in there. He's like, all I will say, like we're shaking things up.
Knowing you guys, I would expect nothing less, honestly.
And when they say you're shaking things up, like it's everything's shaking up. It's like shake it bake. Like we don't even know what's happening. We don't know what serious this is.
We can only shake things up. That's our only mode in this world.
There's just two things I want to say. One thing is real quick. I really hope one day, just to like a fun homage to Self-Made, because just the cover of Self-Made 1 lends itself so well to this idea. But Self-Made 1, I love the cover. If you've read the book, you know the cover. There's the hand coming out of the little portal and she's reaching up. So I feel like that would be like the perfect opportunity for a future Radiant Black issue to homage that cover with like Marshall reaching up and Eva just like stretching out her hand down. I don't know. I think that'd be a fun little thing. Kyle.
I'll speak to Michael. No one will get that, but
we will. That's all that matters. We'll get that. Yeah. But the other thing is, and this is maybe a slight tangent, but I really want to know this because I hear like it come up in a lot of interviews, and like it's come up before when we've been talking to you. It came up, and other pods I've heard. But how did you? I know you've known Michael for a long time. How did you meet Michael?
We went to university together.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was like we didn't, not at the start. I moved around universities a little bit trying to figure out what I was doing. And at one in particular, Michael was studying design, which took. I was studying journalism, which did not. But we both took a screenwriting class together with a professor who spent the whole semester having us read his screenplay, which was about a goth girl who saved a power plant with the power of cricket. It was not good, but we bonded. It's interesting. We actually had a mutual friend that I went to high school with was doing the design course and knew Michael, and she was saying like, "Oh, you should meet this Michael guy. Like, he's really cool. He's really into comics. You'll get along." And I think, especially at that age, I sometimes had this like, that's not necessary. That doesn't mean you'll get along. So I was a little skeptical. Unfortunately, she was right. We did get along very well.
Unfortunately,
just like I don't want it to go to her head. But yes, we got along very well, and yeah, we were only at the same place for like a year, and that was the only class we ever took together. Yeah, we got along like a house on fire and created a podcast together, and both entered comics, and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, it's inspiration, honestly. I see, like, I know you guys both are hosts on the Range of Danger podcast, and man, Michael's done 715 episodes and Matt's done 596 episodes.
That's a lot of podcasts.
That's an accomplishment alone. That's incredible.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're close on that 600, man. Congratulations.
I think that is that counting all of, because we did some like future episodes as well as some like specials. I think, I'm not sure. This is definitely a Michael question, but I think counting everything, we're somewhere in the realm of 1,000 episodes.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
a lot of work.
It's a lot of Power Rangers.
It's a lot of talking.
A lot of Power Rangers.
Power Rangers. That's awesome.
That's incredible. That's a service to the Power Rangers fandom and lore. If you really think about it, I mean, you guys are like a living. Like,
we know a lot. We have criticized a lot, but with love. Yeah, I don't think I could be doing it that long if I didn't love Power Rangers in some way. And it's what connected me to Kyle, and it's like the thread of the Massiveverse in some ways, because myself, Kyle, Ryan, and Melissa all either have written Power Rangers or are currently writing Power Rangers in Melissa's case. So it's our binding thread in a lot of ways. So I am very grateful for it, even if it is often quite bad.
That is incredible. And before we close, I have two last questions. First one is there anything specific that you would want the reader to take away from Inferno Girl Red? I think you touched upon it a little bit earlier, but I thought I'd ask anyway.
I'm not sure if this is like totally answers the question, but like my dream is that people read the book and are like, you know what? My like 13-year-old cousin would love this. I'm just going to hand it over to them and see if they'll get into it, and it will be their lead into the world of comics. So yeah, I would say that. I think there's themes of belief in the book that are pretty self-evident, and I can't imagine anyone reading the book couldn't take that away from it. Whether they take it to heart or not is up to them. But so yeah, I think there's that obvious part. But yeah, I'd love for this to become something accessible or something that you can share with your family, or like just use it to connect with someone younger in your family, perhaps would be ideal for me.
Yeah.
Nice. I feel like it's as shareable as an appetizer and as filling as an entree, really. It like, no joke. Like it's perfect for that. And I did read it and think of it. It's like, this is the perfect for people in that age group, nieces, nephews, or whatever, who are into an engaging superhero that's not like tethered to these giant universes with like 80 years of history and stuff like that. It's just like, boom, I can read this. And
it's
I think
overwhelming, right?
Yeah, my sister is 12 and she's turning, I think, 13 in February. I'm very excited I'm gonna give her this book, and I think she'll really dig it.
I would love that.
Word of mouth is the best promotion, right? Like,
yeah,
and good stuff travels. Good stuff travels for sure. No,
yeah. So, Mat Groom, innovator of a lot, just co-creator of Inferno Girl Red, which we just discussed for an hour. You go check it out, please. It's incredible. It's fucking incredible, actually. But, obviously, when we're talking about your innovations, we have to ask about one of your most spectacular innovations is how did you come up with the incredible title of Mr. Massiveverse?
Oh, well, I mean, the truth is that I have a long and storied history of creating names for Michael that he hates. In fact, that's the driving motivation. And listen, I don't know if this is true. Michael's brain is wired differently to most in the way that we're all different. And Michael will say that he doesn't get anything from praise. He doesn't need validation of any sort. So he's very bad at crediting himself. So Mr. Massiveverse was my way of like forcing credit upon him entirely unwanted. But like he does deserve it. He works frankly far too hard. Like problematically hard. But like binds us all together and makes this crazy initiative work in ways that are obvious to the public and in ways that aren't. And like Kyle is a huge part of this and was obviously first out of the gate and connects people and has incredible abilities to get things moving. But it is important to me that it's recognized how much Michael is the binding thread and pulls everyone together and is kind of the heart of the team, even if he hates it that I pointed out.
Okay, and my final question before we close here is, I look, one thing that we talked about earlier is like we feel how earnest you guys are when you create this book. It's obvious that you guys are fans of the medium, like not just obvious. It's like you're not just, like I look behind you, I see a shelf, like you're just like one of us basically.
It's got a podcast with freaking 1,000
episodes. Exactly. So so from that perspective, I wanted to ask you. You're a writer, obviously. You're a creator. You've done, and now like full time. So congratulations. I wanted to ask you, as a reader, as a fan, what are some things that you've really enjoyed this year? 2022, sorry, that's what I meant. But last year, I guess. But yeah.
Well, one of the benefits of quitting my day job has been being able to take days off and pick up hobbies, which was just not really on the cards previously. And I have very recently and very amateurly gotten into Gunpla recently. And because of that, I've like just very slowly dipping my toes into the world of Gundam. And I started with the Gundam like Origin miniseries, which is like a prequel to the original, which I think was actually a bad place to start. I don't know that I would recommend it because it's pretty lore dense. But I'm loving it. Like I'm all in on Gundam at the moment. So yeah, that's the new thing at the moment for me. It's tremendous fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Matt. Thank you so much for, first of all, for this amazing book, for giving us the opportunity to read it. I can't wait to grab my physical copies this Wednesday. I'm gonna be trying. Fuck you guys! I'm gonna be going for all the variants. You better not be near me. I'm going for
so many amazing ones.
The 150.
Hard to choose.
Black. Yeah. Man, the Carini. You guys got us. Like you got me. I'm gonna get all of them. So yeah, I can't wait for that. Please check out Inferno Girl Red. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us, Matt.
Thanks for having me. And like, just like aside me being here. Thanks for what you guys do. Like, it's, you know, as you're saying, word of mouth is the only reason this stuff in particular works. We don't have a corporate machine behind us. It's just passionate people. And like you guys doing this podcast, the community in the Discord, it's what keeps us going and gives us life and makes us feel better when it's like 3 a.m. and we're struggling with print materials or whatever. We just could not be here without you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
That means so much, man. We love comics so much, and I hope like that's reflected. Yeah, because you gave, man. I'm part of me is like so giddy for people to. I just want to see people like read Inferno Girl Red, and I know the Discord.
Right?
Yeah, like I know how you feel right now, because like you're just like you've been waiting years. You're just like. Oh.
We're so like parents and Christmas morning. Yeah.
When I read it, I'm just like, now I know why it's been so long. The Kickstarters must have been like, their minds must have been blown when they got the hardcovers, because my god damn, it's beautiful. I can't even imagine. I just want to ask real quick, is that the hardcover behind you in the?
That is the hardcover. Yeah,
it's beautiful. Yeah, so it's just huge as well. Anyways, yeah, guys, please check out Inferno Girl Red. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mat Groom. And we'll see everyone next time. Yeah, stay radiant.
Bye.
Awesome. All right.
If you like what we did today here in this video, please like and subscribe. Check out the podcast. Thank you very much. Stay radiant.